What's going on, guys? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Once again, we've got the free scan Sunday nights, and I do hope that you guys are enjoying these. We get a lot of great feedback from it, so we do appreciate your comments throughout the week. Um, Obviously, the market is in complete breakout squeeze mode. It's been like that for quite some time, but it's just a little bit difficult to adapt to that market and just kind of trust that these things are going to continue to go higher and higher and higher and higher. Just like BYND. I came in Friday thinking that, hey, you know what? This thing, everybody thinks it's going to squeeze. Everybody thinks it's the next Tilray. Maybe it just gaps up and fades off all day. And the reality is it didn't. So no matter what you think in this market, the best part, the best thing to do is just really to review the price action and just trust the price action right now. Obviously, with low floats and things like that, that's a little bit more difficult. But if you've got a lot of volume, you've got a lot of range, and you've got a trend that is pretty much continuing in these big cap NASDAQs, recent IPOs, breakouts like AMD, for example, things like that, you just have to go with the trend. There's no sense trying to fight it right now. Things are holding up way longer than most would probably think. And, they're turning into some fantastic squeezes. So each day I just kind of go in with an open mind and try to be as kind of open-minded as I can without getting too biased on any one particular way, and there's no problem with adjusting and adapting your plan based on, what you see. And that's the biggest thing, is just not coming in with a plan and thinking that that's the only plan and sticking with that and trying to, convince yourself that it doesn't make sense and you should stay short or you should stay long, whatever the case may be. It's just not a market to fight right now. And if you're on the wrong side of a name, just move on. If it's not doing what you thought right away, move on. Because right now, if you're staying in a stock that's not moving, you have an opportunity cost that, you could be in other names that could be working, that could be using the same mental capacity that you're using to, focus on this trade that's not working. You could be using that energy and that space in your head to focus on things that could actually be making you money. So I think that's very important right now. That's one thing that I've been focusing on. And, like Thursday, like I said on Thursday's recap, I had a trade on home, and I had a really, really, really good day going. But I tried to find the bottom on home, HOME. There's no reason to do that. I tried 2 times, and both times were wrong. Both times I overstayed a little bit just because I was trying to anticipate where it might rebound. But the reality was there was no edge. There was no washout, no flush out of all the bounce players. And then there was also no setup for a rebound, something where it goes rebounds, has a higher low, and starts to pretty much confirm trend. So all that time that I spent trying to find the bottom or trying to let this trade work that wasn't working, there's an opportunity cost with that I could have been, either one, outside, because at the end of the day, that's the best part of this job is you can, if you have a good day, you can just get the hell out of the office, away from the screens, and go outside. But, number 2 is there was a lot more opportunity there where my eyes were focused on HOME instead of all the other easier money that was potential. So that's my 2 cents with this market right now. And, I absolutely love how it's going. I love the fact that BYND, ZM, DOCU, even Roku, all these names are giving such massive daily range, including PD even on Friday. I had mentioned it on like the 50 break, 51, 52, went up another $4 or $5, and then it faded about 5 to 8. That's insane. You don't even need a lot of share size to make a really, really good trade. And so, you just have to adapt to this market right now. It's just the type of market that we're in right now. And who knows? BYND could go to 200. We don't know. But we have to be open with the possibilities. And, if you don't let yourself be open to the possibilities in this market, you're going to miss out on a lot a lot of opportunity. Just sitting there and staying out of trouble, that's great. Maybe that could save you some money, but there is a lot of other opportunities that if you're on the sidelines and you're not adjusting and you're not adapting and you're not just kind of trusting, what you see right now, then, you're missing out. So anyway, Friday was fantastic. Pretty much nailed the open and then started to kind of compound that into some other gains with LJPC. Those of you guys that saw that trade, that was a fantastic squeeze. Really kind of showed its colors throughout the day. We were on the right side of it Thursday and Friday, and kind of anticipating that move, and it just worked out really, really well. So for me, I usually make a game plan. Like I usually repeat myself every weekend because I don't want people to be overwhelmed about the number of stocks that I have on a scan. But the idea is really just to see them once or twice or three times, multiple times, and kind of get it in your brain as to where the chart is, where they are within the setup, and where the potential is. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to trade them tomorrow. However, in the morning, I do look at this scan, I do go through it, and I do pick 1, 2, 3 of the best potentials based on the pre-market action, right? Because these setups may be perfect, but there might not be any follow-through momentum. There might not be any edge. And an edge in my world is volume, gap, range. And if there's none of that, then I don't really have a trade. What I want is to be proven right based on what I wrote, what I expect to happen. That means I have a solid read on the name. And if it's doing exactly what I expect, then I have more confidence in the trade, and then I go ahead and react to the trade. So with that said, I said in the scan up here that I was going to go over a little bit of Friday's trades just because I did not, I got out of there. I got out of there around 1:30 or so and headed down to Boston. I was going to the Red Sox game later in the day, so I figured rather than pull a Thursday where, I gave back about 1/3 my day on home, I said, you know what, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to get away from the screens and relax a little bit. So I did that, and I didn't have any trades after that. So anyway, for me, BYND off the open. Again, this is just a little bit of a recap from Friday, and then I'll get into scan for tomorrow. But BYND for me was a reactive trade. So it's something that sometimes you've got that imbalance out of the open and the suggested open. I think it was like the implied open was 132, I think, or something like that. So in my world, I was thinking, okay, well, if it has some type of parabolic beyond that, there's a good chance that it's going to probably come back in. And if it doesn't, it's still worth the risk. So in my eyes, 135 plus, being that it was every $5 kind of increments, whole $0.50 marks like we talk about. Anything above and beyond that, it was worth the risk to me to go ahead and start in there. Not sized up, nothing crazy, but that's exactly what I did. I reacted. As soon as it started to have a little bit of trouble, I went ahead and just offered out some. And in my eyes, I'm risking off of 140 so that I can continue to add if I needed to or stop out without being in any hot water. And then I added into the winner, and it flushed out from basically the 136 entry all the way down to 129 and 127s. I re-added a little bit, covered, and you can kind of see I tried to scale in a few times, and then covered into the flushes. I will say that the main reason I made money on this name was the wish orders that I had out. And, that's even over here because sometimes I can get a little bit of trouble later on in the day because I had a really good trade in the morning. So I think I know what I'm doing. And then, you start in and you end up being on the wrong side, whatever it may be. So in this case, I was thinking that if this flushes, I would like to cover right at this price. And it actually happened to be the dead bottom, the very bottom tick of that move. I think it was 124.10 if I remember correctly. I'd have to double check. But it flushed out, it took me out, and then it rebounded. Had that not happened, I probably would have still been in. And it's a good possibility that I would have turned the trade into a loser. And situation here is it went 124 to 128 on pretty much air. So always, whenever you're trading stuff with very high range, kind of think about, okay, if this does do what I think it's going to do, where would I want to get out? And then I usually strategically place my orders there, sometimes just one order, sometimes multiple, and you'll be surprised how many times you'll see the flush out and then it just comes right back up on no volume. And that's just because there's gaps in the trend and whatnot, and you know what? You're either there or you're not. And if you're not, then you get stuck in the situation where you're like, I missed my cover. Do I just swipe the offer now, or do I wait and kind of see what it does? And as you guys know, let's wait and see is always, sometimes the worst thing you can say, and famous last words, and then it slowly ramps back up. So that was just a situation of wish orders really paying out really well. RVLV reacted to this. This ended up actually going to, I think, $38 a share, came back to about 34, 30, 35. These I just saved these charts from the point that I left, and usually I send my trades to Cam and Eric and Emil each day, and those are kind of my accountable buddies, where I say, here's my P&L, here's my my trades that I made, and there you go. And it just keeps me honest, keeps them honest, and you know what, if I did well, they're good job, and if I had a bad day, then it's, you know what, you can talk about it if you need to. If not, then it's just part of everyday life as a trader. But anyway, I waited to the reactive trade where it squeezed out, slammed back down, but both wish orders filled, and so that was that trade. CTRV. This is this is a very, very important topic, and CTRV was a newsletter trade. So I got long for the red to green trade, and I sold some right away, and then I started to add to the winner a little bit just in case. But both times I added to the winner right after a newsletter pot, and I have a rule. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to sell all of it, but I have a rule that if a newsletter comes in, a particular newsletter comes in, and it ramps, I'm a seller. If it doesn't ramp, I'm selling it all. But I'm out. I'm out. 90% of the time, I'm happy. This time in particular, maybe I wasn't so happy because I missed out on some good upside. So anyway, it started to really rip up, and so this is a situation where I was like, you know what, maybe I'll put on a couple feelers just in case it goes into some type of infinity squeeze. And if you guys remember, RBZ went from 5 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12, 15, 18, 20, 30, and so on and so forth. So to me, it was worth the risk. But then, guess what? Newsletter comes in, hits a wall, does not budge. To me, that is a red flag and get out, because as soon as they sell, it's going to go down into circuit halt. Sure enough, about 3 minutes later, boom, circuit halt, everybody's screwed. And so that's the importance, unfortunately, on small caps. You need to know where the volume's coming from. You need to know whether it's natural or unnatural, because as I explained a million times in the room, if you're long a particular name and 1,000 people all come and do the same thing as you, and the offers don't budge, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen to all the people that just bought, that were hoping for higher, and it doesn't budge, and it actually looks like it's going to go lower? What are they going to do? They're going to look to hit the bid. They're going to either look to sell, which you might have a little bit of a delayed fade, or at the point where they all realize that, hey, it's not going, you're going to have a candle just like this. And that's exactly what happened. Straight into a downside halt. Everybody was screwed. LJPC, this was very well spelled out. I had kind of gone over this trade on Thursday. Kind of said that I expected range 12 to 13, potentially parabolic towards 15. And on that note, I had pretty high conviction. I was long the prior day. You guys probably saw the trade. I got long at I think it was 645 or 665. Added, sold some quickly, and kept on trading it throughout the day. It ended up being really, really nice. But this day, my goal was, hopefully if it does gap up, it comes back and it traps. And it did exactly that. All these times that it was about to flush out, the way that I look at it is if it should have died, then I'm interested. It should have broken down all those times. It just came up from, 350 or 4, whatever it was, to 5 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12. That should have cracked right there, but it didn't. So to me, that's an exclamation point saying, hey, pay attention. And so it started to squeeze nicely. I went ahead and locked some in just because I had sized up, and I wanted to make sure that, sometimes you get these breakouts and then flushes right back down. So I went ahead and locked some in, and then I just kind of I reacted to the price action the rest of the way and ended up selling the last quarter at the very top. So was really happy with that trade. And hopefully the comments on Twitter, those of you guys that follow, was helpful. DOCU was another reactive trade, put on a little bit of feeler, react into the washout. So I'm anticipating that push. And the trade plan on our pre-market broadcast every morning at 9 a.m., I grab the mic just like this, and I go over and I draw, on the charts and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I would risk off of, etc. So for me, this is a pre-market. I want to dabble, is what I call it. I'm not going into a full position or anything like that, but I want to anticipate squeeze through the pre-market highs and use that sort of as a guide. So in my opinion, in my eyes, there's a good chance that it comes back under this level. If not, it was worth the risk, and I'm sized in accordingly. If I'm right, I can add into the winner. And so that's exactly what I did. And had a dabble. I reacted into this push because I assumed that it was going to come back under this level. Added to the winner, and then put out some orders and flushed out. And if you see that again, I'm happy with the covers. If I didn't have my wish orders out there, if I wasn't prepared, I might have got swiped right back up. So it's very important that if you are reacting and you're anticipating this type of trade, it's a reactive trade. You need to be prepared. If not, then avoid the trade. Wait until 9:45, 10 a.m. Wait until it starts to set up just like this. The emotions kind of settle down, and then it starts to pick a trend higher. That's what you should wait for if you're not good with that. ARAY was this was a perfect example of, it had no follow through. And I started in there just in case, that it went red to green. I wanted to kind of be in there just so I could start to add. For me, this is chase entry. So I pretty much a starter position. And add if I'm right. Add if it starts to consolidate on red to green and it holds green throughout the day. If not, move on. And so that's exactly what I did. And last but not least, ZM, similar to DOCU, except in this case, you can't really use the pre-market highs. For me, I was thinking about 100 over and under. Again, dabbled on the front side, just kind of get in there just in case it flushes. I can kind of trade around that core. But my main entry was after open and into the parabolic move. Covered some along the way, the ad that I had. And as soon as I did, it stayed heavy, so I re-added. And once again, the wish orders filled. And then once again, late day, this is another example of, kind of just trading to trade. And I put on a chase, entry just in case. And I asked myself, what the heck are you doing? There's no edge there. And the edge is into this VWAP shove. So, this is obviously a chase entry. I never just chase size into the pullback. So my goal in a situation like this is always to kind of add into VWAP and basically risk over and under on VWAP. But in this case, it just kind of hung out. And so I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to do the home situation like I talked about on Thursday. Had a good day. I'm going to keep it. I'm leaving. I'm getting out. So that was basically flat. I think I made a dime on the trade overall, but you know what? That was it. So let's jump into scan for tomorrow. You guys can read through this stuff above. Just some comments on last week, this week coming up, and just like a reminder that this TEUM, for example, it's very important to never underestimate what these names can do. It's very, very easy when stocks are doing things that they don't normally do to get ran over. And that could be, just even trusting dips on something like this. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'll see what it does. Let me see if it comes back. And then it doesn't, and then it doesn't, and then it doesn't, and it flushes you out. And, this is a major move, a major move, almost 50% pullback. And then it goes from 2 all the way up to almost 3, which is, obviously a 50% bounce. So, it's very, very important to, always expect the unexpected. And that's kind of the points that I was making on the scan tonight. So, anyway, RWLK was. I also actually had a trade on Friday. I did not save the chart though, but this is actually a perfect example. I minimized it, but I started in because I was kind of prepared from scan, and then it was kind of just hanging off. So I went ahead and ditched it, and then it started to ramp up again, and then it looked like it was going to fade. So I was kind of in and out, and then it started to ramp up. And if you draw a line across right over here, you can see, it broke the prior resistance. So I went ahead and did it again. Third time was the charm. I stayed safe the first couple times because, there's a good chance that this thing fails. However, the most important piece here is that you can always go back. You can always go back into the trade. So just remember that. Sometimes it's better just to be safe and out. You can always rebuy. So that's what I did. Ended up being a fantastic trade. Unfortunately, I didn't really have too much size. Kind of worked me in and out a few times, but ended up ripping, $1.50 from entry, and it was a really nice clean trade. So what I'd be looking for Monday is basically a pullback potentially towards this level here, 640s, 660s. As long as that level holds, I'm interested. And then over basically 715s or so, 710s, then I would consider the fact that, maybe it has some decent follow through. CTRV, I'm keeping on radar just in case. It's traded pretty heavy. Supposedly 590,000 shares outstanding. Not even the float, the outstanding shares. But they've got warrants. They've got a bunch of crap they need to raise. So that is the short thesis, and they very well may be converting paper as we speak. But you don't know that, and you don't know. It could be an amazing setup for something. They drop a PR, it ends up going. I'm not suggesting, I'm not trying to be bullish about it. I think it's a total crap name, and you should be careful, and it could open up at $4. But I do want to keep it on radar. If this continues to hold trend, there is potential here. So that's the only reason I'm keeping that one up on watch. BYND, massive squeeze into the close on Friday. That one was pretty neat. That one went almost to 150. Not something that I'm too crazy about, just as far as trading it wise. I probably will trade it. I borrowed a couple thousand shares on Friday, and as you saw, I flipped it here and there. But for the most part, not too confident with coming out of the gate and being aggressive and stuff. It's just not that type of trade. So I'm going to see how this sets up. If it gaps up, it goes over 150, something like that, I'd probably react to it. If it stays heavy, if it's red, etc., 9:45, 10 a.m. plus, I'd probably join the trend and see what happens from there. ZM, I'm pretty happy with this, the way that it traded. But these types of candles, a lot of times you'll see them kind of gap up, pull back, start to get some shorts in there, and then you'll actually see them the next day go right back up to the highs. So in my eyes, my first thought is that if this bases at this 94, 93.50, 94 level, there's a good chance that we could go all the way right back up to 100. So that's the first thesis. If not, and we start to have trouble with this prior support, and as you can see, it pretty much held the base the first couple times that it tested, and then pretty much held over that 94 level. So if we peak at 94 and it's having trouble in it, 93.50s, it's having trouble, 93s, I like that lean with a risk based off of 94. So that's what I'd be looking for there. LJPC, I'm going in with an open mind. And, I'd love to see this thing squeeze out. Everybody's bashing it. They cash burn. They need money. Yeah, we know. But price action right now suggests otherwise. They did a fantastic job squeezing here. Nice ABCD setup. They did a fantastic job squeezing into the close. But the other thing you got to kind of think about is sometimes this action in itself is the rotation of shorts covering into longs, and no matter how great it looks, it's just kind of just a matter of time before it filters enough and then boom, bids are gone, and it's back to reality and regular LJPC. So I'm going in with an open mind. I think we're going to have a nice, minimum $1, $2 type of range potential in this trade, and I'm excited about it. WKHS is one of those where, I thought it was done like a bunch of times, and even the other day after hours, they had some filing or whatever, and it flushed out. I'm like, it's finally reality hit. But then it came back. It actually held really, really well. So this is a much different, it's like a penny stock gone wild because, Trump tweeted about it. They got a lot of shorts in there. They had the warrants, and I think it was 187. I'm just trying to remember back from this first run. I forget, 186, 187, something like that. But then it came back. So in my eyes, this could potentially really, really run. And if it starts to base at 250s and starts to get some momentum again, I really would think this is going 350. So for now, you have to assume, we talked about this on YouTube, we have to assume that 250 is the peak. We have to assume that it's going to fail every time. After it proves to us that it wants to hold over 250, we've got a great potential. PD major move on Friday. I had mentioned it right over here when it lifted up. Great setup. It was about 50-50 or so, and then it ran another $4.50 straight up, only to fade off. And, I'm not suggesting that, this would have been a short or anything like that, but you start to have failed follow through, and it ended up fading almost, $5 to $8 more. So fantastic opportunities there. The only downside, I think, here is the volume. I think that it's going to be tough. It had about 2 million on Friday, but I feel like it's going to probably have 500,000 or something. And, that to me is a little bit difficult to trade. So you got to watch your sizes, but I definitely like to keep this one on radar. Again, I don't really have a strong bias here, but I know that it's got some great range. There's great potential right now. So I want to be familiar with the chart. RVLV was the IPO on Friday. Citron came out, liked it. Right over here, he shot it up, and I would actually probably put some money on the fact that he probably brought some shorts in there because they're like, you know what, his last BYND call sucked, so I'm going to go ahead and short this, and then they ended up getting squeezed. So that's how kind of people think. They look at their last plays and they size them up that way. And he's got a hot hand. The next one is like, bam, goes down 10, 15 bucks, whatever it may be. And then the last one, if it wasn't that great of a call, then, they try to reverse the trade. So, in my opinion, there's a lot of shorts in there. They obviously squeezed them out in the close. That does not mean that they're all out. So, in my eyes, I'd be hopefully 40, 45, something like that. We don't know. And we don't know that if it just kind of squeezed everybody out in Friday and then that was it. So, I'm going in with an open mind. I'll definitely borrow some shares. We'll see what happens. And I'm just hoping for a clean setup tomorrow. INSY, nothing I'm too crazy excited about, but what is interesting to me is it did have this week open, and it ended up coming all the way back after that big day that we had over here. So that does interest me. We talk about these wicks all the time, so I'm watching week opens for breakouts. That's something that I would like. Suave, breakout chart. Nothing I'm crazy excited about. I just want to be familiar with the chart. Just like I talked about, I'm not looking to trade everything. I want to stay familiar with these because PD, SWAV, and even DOCU, I know there's going to be trades here soon. I just don't know if they're going to be there tomorrow. So I want to stay familiar with them. Situation like DOCU, I want it to kind of retest. We talk about looking left to predict the right. I want to see it come back and retest this level. If it opens up here and it has trouble, I can probably put a little bit of faith in the fact that it's going to probably fail at that level and look for the fade back. If it starts to consolidate over that level, then I'm assuming it's going to probably try to fill this gap and go 50, 52 or something like that. Snap, another one. I don't need to trade it tomorrow. I'm not going to force a trade on it. I think we have a major trade coming. Whether it goes to 15 or 17 or anything like that, I don't know. But I want to be prepared for it because when it does happen, this is a stock that has unlimited liquidity and you can really trade the size that you feel comfortable with, based on your account size. It's not something where you actually have to take into account, there's a low float, it's too thin, there's only this many shares out, and, therefore I'm only going to trade this many shares. No. Snap is super, super liquid. CYOU. I'm going to be watching this one, kind of a rebound since it got crushed. What I'd be looking for is something like EOLS, where it kind of starts to rebound off the bottom, and then it hits some prior resistance, and then fails. So I'd be looking for it to kind of just go, and then look for the backside move. GES, potential unwinder. Again, just staying familiar with the chart. I think there's opportunity here. I like the volume, but just staying familiar. EOLS, just like I talked about, higher the better, and we're still in backside move here. Potential unwind. DOMO. This one I traded on Friday as well. Nice grind back. So we're going to have to see what happens. 30 over and under is going to probably provide a decent trade. If it has a weak open, we might see it come back and fill this gap right here and then come all the way back up towards 35. Otherwise, if we have a little trouble at 30s, we might kind of retrace back towards this 27, 28 level. And I think last couple, yeah, ZS and Roku. Again, ZS, nothing I'm, kind of come out of the open tomorrow and be like, I'm trading this, I'm excited. No, this is another big ranger, good volume. I'm interested. I want to stay familiar with the chart. And last but not least, Roku. It's just been a good one lately. Off the opens many times, reactive type trades. So I'm just keeping familiar with it just in case we get, a $5 to $8 breakout day or $20 breakout, something like that where the edge comes back, the range comes back, and obviously with that comes opportunity. So that's it for today. Those are the plans for trading tomorrow. I hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend. This was a little bit longer one just because I went over the trades from Friday, and then also some other recent concepts and things like that. So I hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll see you in the chat room on Monday.